Okay, it looks like your audio went again, so say what you were saying just before, so I'll respond to that. He said that censorship's getting so bad in Paris that people are literally getting jailed for certain political cartoons that they're putting out with political messages. And yeah, that is how far gone. And some audio is coming through from your mic. I'm hearing a loop coming through. And this is what I'm hearing from Arnold. And Arnold, I apologize. I know you wanted to call into the show that I did on veganism, and we weren't able to take your call then. And now we're having audio problems when you finally do reach us from Paris. But he was saying that things are so bad in France that the censorship has gotten to a point where people are literally being jailed for what they are saying and writing. And when you have a society that's being closed to that extent, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's time for physical rebellion. And when they are start to do that here, I will advocate for outright physical rebellion, 1776 style, like what the founding fathers did to the agents of the British Crown. Out in the open. Advocate for it out in the open, publicly on air. Okay? That hasn't started happening here in the United States yet, but if it does, I say it's open season on anybody involved in any aspect of government who would dare to do that to someone speaking their mind. And that's what the Second Amendment is for, folks. That's what the Second Amendment is there for. That's what gun rights, period, are there for. That's what those weapons exist, to take out a tyrannical government that has become so tyrannical that they are jailing people for speaking their mind freely. And if that's what's already happening in other countries, it's long past the time for physically removing those people, literally physically destroying them. So, you know, that's what's going on in many areas of the world, you know, and this is why you can never allow yourself to be disarmed. Allowing yourself to be disarmed is getting rid of your last aspect of the ability to defend yourself when a tyrant comes for your rights. And that's what is occurring. And that's the level of censorship that they want, like is what is active in North Korea and China. These are countries, these are governments that have long since should have been overthrown a long time ago by their people. As brutally as necessary, physically, for them to do, you know? And when people hear people say that, they think that's radical. That's not radical. It's radical to have speech closed down. That's what's radical. You know? That it's radical that a whole society would tolerate that kind of shit. That's what's radical. It's radical that a society that is tolerating that kind of shit has already been disarmed to a large extent. That's what's radical. You know? I mean, this is the problem, folks, is that people don't have that kind of anger in them. This is what I'm going to talk about at Anarchadelphia. The death of the sacred masculine aspect of being able to get angry at injustice that is clear injustice taking place in a society. You know, and another aspect Arnold brought up that I thought was extremely powerful is that the more people think that they have to lose, the quieter they become. It's like, you know, you give somebody a little bit of comfort level. You know, they have money, they have nice things, they have a nice home or a nice car, and then all of a sudden, oh, since things are great for me, it doesn't matter that this is happening in the world. Screw all these other people. I'm doing pretty well. The financial system's working for me, so let me just shut up, keep my mouth closed. It doesn't matter what kind of other injustices are taking place, whose rights are being raped and taken away and stolen. You know, let me just be quiet because I have a little bit to lose, you know? No, you have a padded prison cell. That's it. That's all. You have some padding on the walls of your prison cell. That's all anybody like that has. You know, don't get it twisted and think just because you might have a little more money and possessions than other people that means you're not a slave like the rest of everybody. Okay? Because you're still living in a totally feudal system. That's what this whole system is. It's feudalism, if you want to really be technical about the kind of government that really still exists. The only government that exists. Okay? We're just different feudal plantations carved up. That's what countries are. And the feudal lords are the government, violent government system, and their thugs, their henchmen, okay, who are stealing the people's resources, but yet allowing them to live on the land and calling it their own land and pretending that they have property. No, you're a feudal serf living on the landlord's land, and that's all you are. Okay, nobody owns their land or property outright. You know, the government would say you're not allowed to do that. You know, not without paying them their extortion called property tax. You know, not only do they want to take people's possessions, take the product of their labor, the fruit of their labor, now they want to shut them up and say that they're not even allowed to speak about it because a low-level awakening is taking place, a very low-level awakening, at least mentally. You know, people aren't doing enough physically, but at least some people are starting to understand because some people are speaking. And that's what this is about, reaching the influencers, and then hopefully you awaken them to the extent that they become conscious enough and they become courageous enough to influence the people that they already have at their disposal, who are listening to them and paying attention to them. But as far as what Arnold was talking about in his call is concerned, they're jailing people for free expression already in Europe, and they want to make it worse and worse. You know, I don't care how many people want to disagree with certain historical aspects and try to put forward revisionist history. It should be their right to speak, and if they're not correct about it, the answer is to counter that with a correction to why they're wrong and continue to speak about it. You know, can you imagine me? I don't agree with the flat earthers, okay? Could you imagine me saying all flat earthers should be silenced? I don't necessarily think they're so sharp in their math and science skills, but that doesn't mean that I think that they should be silenced. They should be allowed to speak. Where I have a problem is they want to harass me for not believing in their fucking religion. Now I got a big problem. I'm not going to be harassed. You're not going to harass me because I don't accept your religion any more than some government shithead is going to harass me for not believing in authority, their bullshit religion. You know, you're not going to harass me for not believing in your bullshit religion no more than I would allow some imbecile fake ass Christian or some, you know, crazy radicalized Muslim or some lunatic Orthodox Judaic belief person who believes in that shit to come and say, you're going to have to believe in my religious belief or I'm going to endlessly harass you. Watch what will happen to you physically. You continue to do that. I'm not going to live my life harassed. You think you're playing with some little boy, you know? You better think again. You know, and that's what I would say is the same thing when they're telling you have to accept the religion of authority. And they're trying to punk you out and say, not only are you not going to rebel because we're going to take your weapons, we're going to shut your mouth too, and you're not even going to be able to speak, and we'll throw you in a cage for speaking your mind. Folks, any society that's already that closed down, anybody who supports it should have been swinging from a rope a long time ago. A long time ago. Or had their body full of holes a long time ago. Not now. It's already largely too late for something like that. Largely. Not entirely. But guess what? That's why nobody's ever taken Americans' weapons. Ever, ever, ever. Bet on it, boys and girls. Bet on it like your life depends on it. Okay? I wouldn't bet your life against it because you'd lose it. Because they will never disarm this country for that very reason. Because when they try to do that, the weapons will come out. Know it like you know your fucking name. Okay? I'm looking right at you and telling you the truth about what will happen. You don't think so? You have no clue what's here. You have none, zero clue what exists right here in America. None. Okay? So I'm sorry to hear that that's happening there in Paris and in other places in Europe. But guess what? Every person who lived before you should have been more thoughtful when it came to laying down their rights to weaponry. That's all I have to say. Because now a physical rebellion is going to cost tens of millions of lives. Whereas maybe it would only have to cost a couple 100,000, if that. But now it'll be in the realm, it'll be 100 times that factor. 100 times that factor easily. Maybe more. Because you've let a tyrannical government get the reins of society, and they have a monopoly on the ability to use force through weaponry. Not here in America. There's more privately owned weapons than there are people in America. And I mean far more. Enough to arm every man, woman, and child, if necessary, 10 times over, probably. Okay? Or close to that. All right? Not to mention probably the illegal and black market weapons, which would amount to even more. So, that level of tolerating this type of abuse, I don't care how much the leftists get control over bureaucracies in government. The American population is never going to get to that level of first of all, they're already so, from people that I just talked to, many of them are so fed up on what's happening with the social media clampdown that there's going to be a big blowback to this. You don't think that there's going to be coming a huge blowback from freedom of speech advocates with what has happened in social media with these clowns on Google and Facebook and Twitter and Apple? I mean, you are trash communists. I'll say it right here. I'll say it right here on your own fucking platforms. You're trash communists. You're trash authoritarians. You're Nazis too. I'll attack both sides, of your fake imagined political spectrum between left and right. It doesn't matter what flavor of authoritarian you are. You're an authoritarian piece of trash, garbage scumbag who wants to shut down a society and make the government take over and take people's rights away, including their freedom of speech. And you ain't going to get away with it in America. You're not going to get away with it because we're going to first combat you philosophically. It's going to spill over into the political arena. But if it has to, it will spill over into physical combat if necessary. And trust me, you'll never win that. You'll never win it. You don't have the resolve to win that. You're on the wrong side of history. You're morally wrong, and you're not as good fighters as the people who will fight you. Not even close. So, my suggestion is, at least in America, you want to try and press this, you try and press it. Because you're going to find out how bad you will lose. Okay? But in Europe, guess what? They try to press it like they seem to be doing. You guys are going to have a real fucking bad time of it. And I feel very, very sorry for you. But you should look to your not too distant ancestors for destroying your system, your true natural rights, and laying them down to tyrants. Because that hasn't happened here in America to the extent that it has happened in your region of the world. And I'm telling you, when it comes down to having to defend your rights physically, you guys are going to get hit the hardest in the world. Maybe not as hard as China and as North Korea, because they're going to get hit the hardest in the whole planet. On the whole planet. But let me tell you, Europe's going to have a real hard time of it if it comes to that. All right? So, I mean, that's straight up real talk. All right? Responding to Arnold from Paris talking about this level of censorship that's taking place in France. And, they're trying to shut down all the social media, the ability of people to stream what's going on with the yellow jackets. The protests with the yellow jackets there in Paris. They want to cut people's ability to even cover that in any kind of real time because they want to come in with their narrative, And that's why I'm saying people have to be more bold. We have to really have a total pushback, blowback on these tech giants when it comes to how they're trying to shut down speech. You're Chinese communist trash. You're globalist trash. You're Soviet-style Stalinist trash. You're Maoist trash. Okay? You're authoritarian pig scum is what you are if you support that type of closure of freedom of speech. Because what you are is a person that wants a society that still has freedom of speech to become a closed society. And that's called an immoral scumbag piece of dirt. And that's what these tech giants are. And that's what all the people who would support them are. Imagine what the number your dirtbag parents did on you. Imagine what kind of trash scumbags your parents were to raise a child that would turn out into an adult that way. What trash fucking parents you had. You know? Imagine this. Imagine the kind of dirt that your parents were, and probably your grandparents too. That they have no values over what's right, what's just, what freedom really is. You couldn't spell it, and neither could your parents and grandparents. You know? And you would say you're trying to improve society? Wouldn't know the meaning of the term. Okay? We have to be bold, speak the truth, and influence the other influencers. And motivate them to courage. Learn the technology to put that out there. Learn the technology to circumvent censorship. Put the truth out there in the biggest way that you know how, and tell everybody within the sound of your voice that government is slavery.